Good morning, everybody. So today we come to talk about Zen. And Zen has been characterized as sudden awakening, gradual cultivation. But the cultivation of what, you may ask? And for us, it's the cultivation of our Buddha nature. Buddha means the one who woke up. It comes from the Sanskrit word bodhi, which means wisdom. And woke up from what? Woke up from a dream. The dream that we are separate and alone and afraid in a world that we never made. It's because of our ignorance, avidya, that we do not see the truth of our being, that we are one with everything around us. In Sanskrit means not. Vidya means vision. It's where we get the root word video in Latin, which means to see. You may think of the word video. Same concept. So to see that we are these beings of divine nature is what we in Zen come to talk about, what we come to cultivate, and what we'll look at today. The other word meaning to see that we find in Sanskrit is the word drishti. You may be familiar with this word if you practice Ashtanga yoga. A drishti is a looking place. And in Sanskrit, we have two distinct types of drishti. We have what's called Sakaya drishti, or the drishti of separation, this ignorance that we follow in our normal waking consciousness. And we have what's called Samyak drishti, or the great view, the view that we are one, like what we were talking about just a moment ago. And as we develop this wisdom or this insight into our true nature, we start to realize in the core of our being who we are, these Buddha beings. Now, this evolution of our being, it happens over the course of time, over a series of incarnations. It might take millions, if not infinite, numbers of incarnations. When the Buddha looked back, he saw his last 99,000 incarnations. And he said that this was just a drop in a bucket compared to all the incarnations that it took him to achieve full Buddhahood. So let's look at that. We have here what's known as the wheel of human being, or the total wheel of human evolution. It starts with a story that we're all familiar with, the Garden of Eden, the time in which Adam and Eve were not separate from God. And then they ate the apple of knowledge, and thus beginning our journey into separation, or the forgetting that we were created in the image of God and that we were taken care of by God Himself in every moment. So we go through life after life, creating forms and objects, desires, models and molds of how the world should be, how reality should feel, what it should look like, all so that we can feel this sense of security and safety in our minds. But after some time, we realize that nothing we create in this world will give us peace or will give us joy. And this is what Christ told us when He told us to not put up our treasures in places where moss and dust would corrupt. So once we realize that nothing outside of us will bring us this peace or this joy, well, then we start to despair. And in our despair, we seek, and we pray, and we worry, and we wonder, what will bring us peace? And it's often at that time, in our greatest despair, that the first awakening begins to happen. And we start to say, wow, it's not how I thought it was. The most common image that we've known of this, or that we see in our media, is the story of someone who's built such a large business that he no longer finds joy in anything else that he does. And after all of his despair, he says to himself, well, it's time for this game to be over. I'm going to commit suicide. I've done so much wrong in my life. I've ruined everything. Nothing's brought me peace. And at the moment in which he goes to kill himself, splash, a spark, an illumination of all of his life. And he sees, wow, at the essence of my life was love. And his life could be completely transformed at that moment. And thus beginning what we call awakening, our Buddha nature. The journey back to our oneness, where we start to realize that for all this time we've been seeking peace outside of ourselves, that the truest, most deep peace comes not from what we can grasp in the outer world, but what we can feel in the depths of our hearts. And this is what we call the return to unity. After this point, for many of us, we experience what's known as the dark night of the soul. It's been characterized as some as having yet to be born deep enough into the pool of infinity, that we have yet to taste of our own divine nature in every moment of our waking consciousness. For others, it's been described as a collection of unpaid dues, all of your past karma coming back to claim itself and to finish the working outs of its own nature. And once this karma has been worked out, well then, the real journey into divinity begins, the real yogic journey. And we characterize this part of our past as the establishment of our lineage. It's often at this point where beings, they either meet their teachers or they find a suitable practice of yoga, which they realize can be used as a raft or a vehicle, an upaya or skillful means to get them from this mode of suffering, this physical body, this plane of time and space, into a place within themselves that is beyond time and space, that is beyond suffering. And this is what all of our methods of yoga are designed to do. They're designed to bring us back after we've finished our karma. And what do they bring us back to? They bring us back to this final liberation, this place in which we aren't separate from God, but in fact we are one. Just as these flowers blow down from the heavens above, nothing in this world is separate from Him. And in one moment, we look out, whether in a meditation, in a moment of practice, in a moment of just being, and we see that forever, it always has been such, that behind this entire show was the presence of the divine nature. And it wasn't separate. It was just clouded by this delusion, this identity with this separateness that allowed us to forget. It allowed us to forget that we were God. And that's what this journey is all about. And in that moment of remembering, you have a choice. You have a choice to merge back in with God, the divine Himself, or you have a choice to push away God, to play in the form, knowing of your oneness. And that playing in the form again is what's known as the Bodhisattva vow. And many beings have taken this vow, and many beings to this day will continue to take it. And at that moment, their suffering is no longer identified with their individual suffering, but the suffering of all beings. And in this vow, they vow to liberate beings, to guide them home, to be the captains of the rafts, of the yogic practices that will bring beings peace, that will bring beings realization, that will bring beings back to this samyak, drishti, this seeing of unity, in which they can realize their divine nature and awaken to the wisdom that will set them free. Now, in this game of life and death, we have different planes of existence. For most of us now, we're experiencing life on the human plane. It's the only plane in which we can go from this mode of separation into this mode of realization. That's why in so many practices they talk about the preciousness of a human birth. Because in this birth, every being has the potential and the possibility to awaken to their true nature and to escape what is known as the wheel of samsara, the wheel of birth, life, and death. When we are born, we have what is known as our awareness. This awareness is fused with our karma, the efforts of our past lives. And this karma creates for us what is known as our Dharma, or the path that we will take from this birth until our death. Over the course of life, this Dharma, this path of existence, is worked out. Things come and things go. Moments arise, they teach us something, and then these moments, they pass away. In the same way, moments arise, we do good deeds, we accrue good karma. Then a new moment happens. Maybe it's something that makes us upset. The moment arises, we do something bad, and then we accrue bad karma. And after this process of moments arising and moments passing away has subsided, and the four energies of the body are thus used up, we come to what's known as death, and we take whatever karma is left with us at that point into our future birth, into a new realm. For some of us, because of our good karma, we might end up in heaven. We might spend 500 years there. And that would be nice, but it's not free. It's not liberation. You haven't escaped the wheel yet. For others of us, though, we may find that these toils of coming into existence, existing, and dying again and again is what we no longer wish to do. And in that moment, we wish to find deeper peace than just heaven, deeper peace than knowing we won't end up in hell. So what do you do? Well, the Buddha told us very clearly. He said, you strive for liberation. And liberation is not something that's outside of this moment. Like I said a moment ago, every being in every moment has the potential to awaken. Because there's a thread of something that has been woven through every moment of our existence, whether on a human plane, an animal plane, a hell realm, or a heavenly realm. And what is this thing? This thing is our awareness. It's the part of you that is listening to me talk, but cannot be heard. It's the part of you that is seeing now, but cannot be seen. It is the part of you that is divine. And when you can learn to rest in that, regardless of what the moment brings you, well, then you are well on your way to escaping this wheel of samsara. And we'll look at these practices more in the next talks to come. So if you have any questions, I'd love to take them now. If not, namaste.